Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the E-Discovery channel. This is Tom O'Connor from stormy New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm here with, as always, between no ferns, Rocky Messing of Tel Aviv, Israel, and the Microsoft Global Corporation. Rocky, how are you today?
I am doing great, Tom. Good to see you as always.
And we're really happy today to be joined by Joy Murao let me see if I get this straight, Joy. You're the CEO of Practice Aligned Resources. Is that right?
Yes, sir. And you can just call it PAR. Are you on PAR?
PAR. There we go. Okay.
I like it. It's short, sweet, and
yeah. And are you in? I know the business headquarters are in LA. Are you in LA?
Yes,
Joy?
sir. Yes, I am. I'm safe in my home. Not shopping, not out there on the roads. Yes.
Good. Yeah. Good. Doubly safe, right? I mean, we got two things going on now. It's not just the pandemic. Now we've been very fortunate here in New Orleans. We've had 4 or 5 days of very, very peaceful protests. So knock on wood that hopefully that'll continue here.
Yeah.
Rocky, have you seen the news? What's going on over here?
I've been watching it. They've had some protests here in solidarity as well. But
oh, good. Good. That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So, excellent. I imagine, though, that people in Israel don't mess with crowd control, right?
They tend not to.
Yeah. So. Little different situation there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They've been having some various different protests here actually for a little while, and on all they love to protest here, and they've actually done a really good job. There's like you can see some pictures of them protesting where you'll have 5,000 people, each one standing 6 feet away from each other, just like totally spread out. So
wow.
They still try to keep social distancing and stuff like that. So
cool.
They try.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, they try. Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Joy, why don't we were talking earlier about the kind of informal format that we have here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first? Tell us how you got where you are today.
Okay, for a second there, I thought I was on Bumble. Tell me more about yourself. Just kidding. No, sorry. So yeah, my background coming out, I think it's pretty typical coming out of undergrad, wanting to go to law school, going to paralegal school first to see if I can work in a law firm and see if I enjoyed that and wanted to invest the time and money to become a lawyer. And I'm just very fortunate that I kind of fell into litigation support. It really wasn't called that in 1994, or it was just starting. But it was this bridge between lawyers and the case teams and IT. And so being able to bridge that gap and be a facilitator, a liaison, someone that has a kind of technical orientation, but also loves legal. So if you've heard me speak before, I really kind of grew up as a latchkey kid watching TV. So I've loved all the legal shows from, like the newer ones, LA Law. That's not
LA Law. Yep.
Now Suits. I mean, I still love it. And of course, any of my lawyer friends will say, that's not real. I'm like, I know, but still, it's just this excitement. So I've always really enjoyed the concept of being a lawyer. So I could say I could play one on TV if I really wanted to. But I think going back, one thing people don't really, I don't really speak a lot about because I didn't really make this connection until a few years ago. But when I was going into high school, I was actually selected when I was in New Jersey. I grew up for a bit in New Jersey to be in this program, which now would be a STEM program. But back then, Bell Labs had a program for minorities, for minority students. They took 2 kids from each school district and brought them to their headquarters. I think it was Piscataway. I was young, I couldn't drive then. So, but they pick you up in this limo. It was the first year, next year was like a van, but they'd pick you up and they'd bring you. And I remember my first summer, I learned C and some programming and logic. And the next summer, I was in the research and development group. So we were taking notes and you were listening at the table. And again, I'm like 14 years old, just listening, right? But I think it's interesting that concept of the possibilities of coding and the listening to problems and research and development, trying to do that, that has actually been a thread through my whole career. So I think
I'm sorry to interrupt, Joy, but tell me again, who sponsored that program?
Bell Labs.
Interesting.
Bell,
Do they still do that? Do you know?
well, Bell got absorbed by AT&T, right?
Right.
And I was trying to look up the history to see if I can find some of the people who actually created the program to find out where it is now. So I'd love that to go research that if anyone knows. But I think Lucent had also bought a piece of Bell Labs in New Jersey, so I'm not quite sure. I would love to do that. But if you looked at that was 1983, 84, and I was like the third class, so there were two classes before me that did that, and so it really was focused on bringing minorities into computer science, and it didn't win out over my Filipino pressure to become a doctor. So, they didn't win over that, but I was a bio major in undergrad. But as you don't study for the MCAT and you kind of get distracted in undergrad world, you realize that dream of being a doctor is gone. But it wasn't really my dream anyway, so it was okay. And I think I've fallen into something I really love. I do think that what we do helps people, right? We don't cure cancer, but we definitely help people. I mean, you look at lawyers when they come out and they don't understand the technology or the e-discovery related to all this.
When
But
they come out, I don't know if you saw the article recently that Harvard is sharing this with all the law schools in the country this summer. They have a program called LZero. It's an online series of lectures that they give to all their incoming law students, to all their L1s. And it's on the basics of the legal system, because they have found to their chagrin that something like 75% of all their L1s have no idea what the court structure is between state, local, and federal, how laws are made, how bills. It was like these people paid no attention to civics classes in 7th and 8th grade.
But then
they literally have a program called LZero. It's an online series of lectures, and they're sharing it with all the law schools in the country this summer. So,
well, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I saw recently, sorry to hijack this, Rocky. I see you tentatively, you're poised to ask a question.
All good.
But this conversation reminds me of an interview I saw with, is it Melinda Gates? Bill Gates' wife?
His wife, yeah.
Yes. I saw a fascinating interview with her. I want to say it was on 60 Minutes recently, but I can't swear to that. But the whole issue of women in technology is very big to her. And she was saying that what she saw as a major problem was that there's not enough women at the undergraduate level who major in computer science, math, whatever. And she said, so we don't get them started early enough. It just dovetails perfectly with what you're describing, Joy. So I'll have to do some research on that Bell Lab thing and see what other programs are going on out there now.
Yeah, and it's amazing that once you get that bug of the technology bug and how it can take you through, and you never know where you're going to end up and how you're going to be able to make use of those things throughout your career. It's pretty cool. But tell a little bit more in terms of, so you obviously went to a law firm, but what was kind of the path to get from the law firm to where you are today as the head of PAR? You're on mute. You're on mute. It wouldn't be a online video call without someone being on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, all good.
I'm like a commercial. Can you hear me now? So definitely, I think, well, first of all, I think it was a natural progression. I've worked in big law for over 20 years. So it was my own, like going from analyst and doing task-based work and working with lawyers and kind of coupling that with my paralegal certificate and understanding cases. So I think understanding the business, no matter where you are, working with clients, you need to understand what their work is, not just your task, but how it works with them. So that natural, I think, understanding the business kind of led me up and through management. And I really I've always been very creative with like desktop publishing. So when I would teach lawyers how to use something, I would always have a nice, pretty slick tip sheet or a manual or a book that I made. And I think that just got noticed also because I think I learned early about branding and needing to be able to more tightly affiliate or kind of relate to my clients, usually the attorneys, like when they need something, who are they going to think of? So coming up with color schemes that are kind of, again, are so important to regular product placement and product adoption, right? That's the same thing as my service is that. So inside a law firm, I always looked at my team and what I did as a service, a customer service. And that attitude and mentality, I think, helped me create a department at Latham is the most notable one in the sense that it was 13 years of my 20-year career. But building a team, we started with 5, and by the time of my end of my tenure, we we're at 52, in not just big offices, but every office. We had teams in Europe. We had a person in Asia and Hong Kong. So the concept that technology is beyond litigation, it is any attorney, any legal project. Technology was really becoming a commonplace tool used in corporations, and that's who we represented, right? So I think that mindset of evolving with law firms as they grew, building a business inside their firm that was revenue generating, but we focused not on the dollar. When I was at Latham, we focused on the service, the customer service. If someone needed us on the phone, we would be there for them, making sure we provided that kind of 24/7. Because we were global at the time, we were able to share work between Paris and New York and LA. So we did have a 3-tier system. So it's really nice and very fortunate. But what you find is that attorneys till this day, which is, again, maybe that's nice if Harvard's putting that out there for law schools, are still challenged with understanding the role technology plays in their cases, in their day-to-day activity. I think what COVID, unfortunately, with all the unrest and everything that's going on in regards to safety, I think that the positive part of the world, the global topic, is the use of technology, and not just Zoom, but in the concept of working from home. What kind of security measures do we need to worry about? What kind of laptop and monitors do we need to worry about? What kind of headsets do we need to worry about? Everything, all of a sudden technology is more in your face, and you're now forced to talk about it and deal with it versus, I don't know how to do that. I won't do that right
now. Not my deal. I don't need to worry.
Yeah. But now, like, oh my gosh, I have a meeting and I got to get on that Zoom thing. Can I do it from my phone? Yes, you can. Yes. So, like all of a sudden it's more accessible. It's, again, just more commonplace. So now you're hearing Zoom as a verb. Teams, to me, it's not just, when I think of Office 365, and not to, I'm like, also, wait a minute. But I do, we're Office 365, and I think what Office 365 has done for the trend of lawyers leaving big law, and I'm trying to coin this thing called small bigs. It's the big law partners who have left to create their own smaller law firms. They used to jump from, top law firm to maybe the next rung down, like, or next couple tiers. They would float between the ranks, but now they're actually pulling themselves out. And with Office 365 and with a WeWork space or working from home now,
good.
Yes, they have the same lawyers that have been working on some of these large corporate cases for over a decade. And now they don't have the same constraints of real estate and, buying on-premise servers and having a whole support team. So moving to the cloud and all the technology has been amazing for transforming the access to justice, if people will say it that way, but legal services. And for me, I think what I found when I was working at another big law, I moved from Latham to Paul Hastings, that, you really do rely on that iron triangle, excuse me, of people, process, and technology. That if you have 50 people, if we didn't have the right technology and the right process, it's not going to be a successful team. I don't care how many people you have. It's going to be messed up, right? Excuse me. But if you have the right technology and the right process, you can do a lot with a very small team because you're leveraging and utilizing efficiency, minimizing risk. So just managing that iron triangle, I found that when I went to my last gig, that as a director, where do I get trusted resources? How do I get someone who could do everything and let support, from burning a disk all the way to getting on a phone with the IT department of a Fortune, 5 company? Well, those unicorns, everyone tells me I'm hiring a unicorn. I'm like, they don't exist. Yeah. Unicorns don't exist for a reason. That's a dream, which is great to aspire for that. But why don't we do 3 mares, 2 stallions? Let's think of how
a team together that'll actually work.
Exactly. And align the resource to the practice. What do you need to do? So if for me, it's a stratifying of the legal life cycle. You have information governance that is totally different discipline and mindset and technology set to those who are doing trial support. And the timing and the deadlines, it's just so different. And it's just interesting to me that people will want to hire one person that can do it all, and then they wonder why they cycle through so fast. Whether it's burnout or they just don't have the right skills, it's really hard to have someone who is a fireman all of a sudden be a structured project manager. I have to do FIFO, FILO, whatever that is, first in, last out, first in, first out. Like that whole concept of triaging and managing things is not the same as in a fire. Like you will make some decisions you probably wouldn't have made if you had structured it and you had time. So those are such different requirements that it's just really unfortunate that I'm hoping that this whole thing that we're doing now has broadened people's understanding of how technology, with the role of technology and technology related people, because not everyone has to be a technologist, how they help to practice a law. So I think.
Are you seeing in the last 3 months now? I mean, it's hard to believe that we're already, a solid 3 months into this of remote work and people being distributed even more than they were before. Are you seeing the impact of that already in terms of with your clients and the people who you're talking and consulting with? Like, how is their mindset changing through all of this?
Yeah, so first, I think some people are still in the fire. It's a fire mode. When you looked at the beginning of this, having to deploy, oh my gosh, we have to purchase and deploy 100 laptops because legal secretaries, certain paralegals, some people weren't equipped to work from home. In California specifically, right, we have a lot of overtime issues and laws. So having to deal with that, right? And all of a sudden, the spotlight is put on IT. And what I'm finding is it's kind of the spectrum is the polarity of it is quite wide, where one, they're heroes, right? Which is, I think we have to really do, again, a lot more to brand that I think IT is definitely the essential people and that they are the heroes in helping us be able to work from home. But then the other side is, why weren't we prepared? What would happen? Why was this failure? We're losing money. It's like, wow, just to have this. And all I could tell people is when we did our disaster recovery plans, pandemic wasn't really one of the scenarios that was on there. A global, shutdown
down to the world, right?
Yeah, it wasn't really there. Maybe the an earthquake in LA or something tragic, going on in one city, a region was definitely on the plan, but not a whole global shutdown. So I think for me, I do see that companies are responding in a very interesting, creative way. I mean, for the people who are hiring, there are some, unfortunately, who have furloughed, who have laid off because the work's currently not there. Maybe certain practice areas are obviously going to be on the downside right now. But what it's almost like kinetic and energy, right? Like what if one's going down, the other one's going up. Potential and kinetic, right? So that employment law, healthcare, contracts like insurance, all those are probably going to be scaling pretty high. So what I'm finding is that people are being more open to looking at transferable skills. Like, okay, we're really hot right now in employment law. I just need someone that knows Excel or that can file documents with the court, because, like all of a sudden it's not so focused on that unicorn, but looking at, we need help. Who can start, getting water out of the ship here? We need to start, who can talk to clients on the phone and who can just get some of the basic information down. So those are different skill sets, right? People who can file documents and people who can calm a client down. Those are different attributes to employee. So
do you think, just prognosticating for a second, like what's the long-term effect of this going to be? Is this going to be, let's hope that a vaccine shows up, in the next few weeks or months or whatever it is, and then everyone kind of gets back to normal. Will this have a long-term effect on the life of your average attorney, your average litigation support person, your average, file clerk, you're just across the legal spectrum? What's going to be the long-term effects here, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, and also what I'm trying to make sure that we're doing, like Tom mentioned, the Harvard LZero, the concept that there are organizations who see a problem, and now we can utilize technology to try our best to provide a solution to that, or training and education. To me, that's the core of what I started PAR with, is everything has an educational focus. But taking that and leveraging that, and with technology, being able to scale that and help people come to the same page, right? First of all, get everyone on the same page on where we are, because I think people interpret the issues differently. So for lawyers, lawyers have been working remotely for a very long time. The road warriors, maybe more so than others, but attorneys have started to work from home at nights and on weekends. They didn't have to come in the office like they used to go review the documents. Now they're on Relativity, Reveal, like all the tools, right? All the cloud-based tools out there. They now can do their work from home. So I think the lawyers working from home, I don't think it impacts them as much. Maybe they want to do it more often than they used to. They don't. I think we always worried about the mentorship and the kind of networking you have to do in a law firm, because you're not just working for yourself. You have to make sure you're touching base with your partnership. You have to make sure you're touching base with your other associates. I mean, there are other things to a law office besides the billable work. But from a legal technology standpoint, what I think is interesting is hopefully the concept of utilizing people across the country is going to be more of a viable option than it used to be. It used to be like, oh, who's going to move to Seattle? Who can move to Texas? Who can move to Idaho? I don't know anybody who wants to move to Idaho. So no offense to those who live in Idaho. I'm not saying that at all. But that I'm hoping that we see now that we've proven, because as a global team, we always work remote, because if I'm in LA taking care of you in Paris, I'm not there with you. So in a larger organization, they understand help desk. They've centralized them in Chicago or India or the Philippines. They understand that. But from a legal litigation support realm, it's been a little bit more challenging. And I think that's for a purpose. I would say that if I am going to get on the phone with a Fortune 5 client, I want to make sure that I have the best person on the line. I want to make sure that there's no issues with our support of that. But could we get creative and maybe look at things by task, saying who loads data doesn't have to be in the New York office, which is probably the most expensive place to be. So getting more creative with that, I think hopefully coming out of this, we will have more conversations, because one, budget time's in October. We're going to have to talk about next year's budget. Two, we have to look at alternative ways on a larger level to help our clients save money, because law firms obviously are going to have their issues on revenue, and that comes from the corporation. The corporations, have they shut down their work or transitioned from manufacturing a product like a car or something, a refrigerator, to ventilators, right? So all of a sudden their business was impacted. So the ultimate client who's determining their budgets for next year are going to be impacted. They're going to look for ways. We already saw pencils down, right, for cases that are not essential in the sense of imperative. But that upswing, what's next year's profile? Are we going to settle more? Are we going to try our best to be better to stop these cases from ever happening? In regards to like employment law, for example, I see a big push for how do we have better training systems and performance evaluation systems? How do we get our managers to be better managers to minimize some of these employment suits that we've had down from the past? How do we minimize the risk of even getting into those litigation situations, right? If we're doing M&A, how do we make sure that our due diligence process is thorough to minimize the kickback of getting sued 2 years from now because something wasn't disclosed correctly or adequately? I think that's an interesting perspective for the law firm to look how we can prevent, because those cases aren't going to come up right away. And it's a way to tell your client, we hear you, we're here for you, we'd like to get creative with you. And we understand there's only so much. If you don't have the money, there's nothing, right? There's budgets.
Let's plan this together.
Yeah.
Try to show some solidarity there, which, I mean, they have to, because they want to get whatever they can get out of it. And if there's a limited budget, then you got to work within that. Let's a little bit of a different topic, but related. You've been active in women in e-discovery and other minority supporting efforts. I'm curious if just your take on whether or not this idea of the remote work and kind of the ability to have someone who's not necessarily in the New York office or in the San Francisco office, Is that going to have an impact on the numbers and the opportunities for women, minorities, diverse and inclusive environments, which, can be difficult especially in a law firm and in a legal environment where things are very time pressured, things are very, the expectations are very high, and not just for women, but men also struggle and burn out, and there's a lot of issues around that. Do you think that this is going to have a positive? I mean, I think that it'll have an overall positive impact on the diverse workforce. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, definitely the answer for me is yes, definitely. So being a minority owned, I'm a certified minority owned, a certified women owned business, coming from being an employee to an entrepreneur, right? I think my journey is something that has fueled me to do the Women in Need Discovery mission, to support that, we do our own empowerment, women empowerment workshops that kind of focus on my journey and kind of sharing my information, because people would ask a lot of how I did it or why I did it. And instead of doing one-on-one, again, trying to share it more on a wider audience. Yeah. But one thing I noticed in with what's going on is when challenges come your way, how do you turn that to opportunity? Right. And so right now I look at some of the challenges of people being furloughed and laid off. I don't know the statistics of it being men versus women or minorities in regards to that, but I do know that corporations, I don't know if you've heard of the $1 billion roundtable, but corporations have made a commitment to D&I. And that's one thing that people need to understand when you have your own business, if you're in a law firm, that diversity and inclusion, I don't just take it as a racial issue. I take it also as, again, small business versus large business, in the way I interpret things, of bringing in different perspectives, the beauty of diversity, the opportunities of inclusivity, the creativity that's going to bring for people, right? So first of all, when it comes to D&I, just understanding that there is a requirement or a goal that's set amongst our clients. And our clients are coming to the law firms and saying, hey, we really would like to support diversity and inclusion diversity and inclusion. Can you tell us how you can help bring that to us? So I challenge the law firms to think creatively. So I'm hoping that this, again, will open the doors to looking at the people who are available. They may not be sitting in New York or Los Angeles, but opening the door to that. Also looking at creatively, we talked about this before about job sharing. I kind of do that with my business now. Like, I like to focus on passion and when can you work? What do you like doing? Just because you can't fulfill a full 8-hour day doesn't mean you're not a valuable employee, right? Because I really I have other passions in my life, but I do have an expertise in this doesn't mean I can't offer that to someone. So I think the concept of understanding for people who are out there, understanding what your strengths are, what you love doing, because I think that's very, it's easy to do work if it's what work you love. It comes off like almost natural, right? Like when people ask what's your hobby, I'm like, e-discovery is my hobby. I don't know what to say. I love it. I mean, I just, because it's such a broad category. People think it's only processing data. I'm like, oh no, there's so much more to this. So I would think that this is an opportunity for companies, law firms and corporations and government even, right, to think more creatively of how they staff. Do you staff full on site? Do you staff off site? Do you staff, like we're talking about A/B teams, right? Because not everyone can come in the office if we're going to go. Not everyone's going to be able to go in an elevator, or not everyone's going to be able to sit in the office space because we have to put in the 6 feet between. You're going to be limited on who actually what workforce is available to you on site anyway. So think about that remote. Think about transferable skills, because there is no school per se for lit support. So we've always had to look at, well, what law firms did you come from? I'm going to steal from Peter to pay Paul. But that doesn't mean it's a good thing. Different programs, not that my program was the best. It was the best, but okay, not that my program was the best. But I do know that we had a culture. We had an attitude towards training and a true team. So you'll see that the culture for us was, I will ask for help immediately. Like, hey, does anyone know how to do this? Because I got to get this done. There was such a conversation between us. That's why, again, teams and that this whatever the communication protocols people are using, but we have technology to help us communicate better now. So hopefully that'll bridge the gap of, oh, well, you're remote, so you're out there. What are you talking about? I can talk to you right now. Let's get on a right now. I mean, Skype meeting now. Let's just talk it out. We've tried before to utilize video technology, but again, coming out of this, I've never seen so many people's faces on an online screen than I have through this. And it's a beautiful thing to see people come out of that. And I don't think it's vanity. I don't think people are vain in the way people that is, but it's this comfort, right? To feel comfortable, to create a safe place for people to have a discussion, not be judged, like maybe I'm not in the office or whatever it is, whatever people are thinking about. Now it's like really focused in on who I'm talking to, which is what I think we really want to aspire to. So coming out of this, I think we're going to come out on a better end. It is dark. I mean, that's the darkest before the dawn. I always tell people, just look at this time as a time to take a break, and you're not getting penalized because everyone's taking a break. If this is when you got laid off or furloughed, this is the time in regards to it's okay. You're in a boat with a lot of other people, so use this time wisely. There's so much training being offered for free. There's so many people, like on LinkedIn, I'm like, get people in. There's so many people who say, link me in, talk to me. Let's get on a Zoom call.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's so many things like, oh, I can't join. I can't get on that call because I'm not a member. They sent out an email saying everybody's welcome. So get on. And so the excuses or the obstacles or the barriers to entry that used to be there aren't there anymore. So if you're a lawyer who wants to, like everyone asks me, how do I get into this? Go get your ACEs, go on the Sedona, go to the Sedona website, go to EDRM. There's so many projects now that are restarting to refresh. There are movements on how can we keep some of these like, can I keep this remote deposition? Then people are like, no, the courts are going to take it away. Well, actually, there are some courts who are looking at keeping this. So now's the time to jump on. You didn't miss the boat. That's what I'll tell people. They think they missed it from the 80s, and then they think they missed it from the 90s, and they think they missed it. Like, no, you didn't miss it.
It's still plenty of time, and there's plenty of work that needs to be done and is going to continue to need to be done. Yeah. So
exactly.
Tom, you wanna go with your favorite question?
I do. Speaking of time, let's go to our final question, which is, Joy, if you could spend a day with anybody in our profession, living or dead, doesn't have to be somebody who's alive right now, but you could spend an entire day just hanging out with somebody who does what we do. Who would you like to spend that day with?
Well, first I want to start with Browning, just because Browning Marie, and one thing I want to say, when I think about the words of why, it's the respect that he gave everyone in our industry. If you're a lawyer, not a lawyer, I remember speaking to him and I was always self-conscious, like I still want to go to law school. That's still something I aspire to. But you're in a room with all the lawyers, and who am I? I'm just this tech person who knows where all your data is and whatever. Right? I could turn your data into a sword or a shield, but should I? Can I? Like you always feel a little bit pulled back. But I remember it was a conversation after a conference, and I had shared this with him. And for that piece, the kindness and the deepness of his voice, right? There's that inspired me or gave me that confidence or gave me it's that pillar in my mind. Like, you know what? It's okay. So one would be Browning, because I try to do that now and carry on that feeling that I received from him in that one conversation. It's okay. Or someone else had said, I've gone to the school of hard knocks. That's my law school, right? Whatever that is. So that's great. And I just tell people, you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a computer science major to do what we do. So that's my mission there. But when I thought about like who I really want to talk to, Jeff Lipsman. Jeff, where are you? I want to talk to you. So Jeff started Concordance back in the day, right? And Concordance, when I look at it, the simplicity, even though, if I recall, was based off, I think it was Stairs or some mainframe program, but the vision and the foresight of seeing where we needed to be and the convenience, again, accessibility. Concordance is still Concordance, but when you look at it, when you look at tools, when tools become a utility, when an application becomes a utility, or it's so open, like the ability to, that's where I started to use my little code ability, right? Writing little CPLs, apply. It's so simple, yet it can get the job done, right? I mean, when you to this day, so small firms that have a small little, have 3 boxes, where there is a place for everything. And I think concordance has such utility. The concept that a DAT file is, still a thing today.
Also industry, yeah.
Yeah. So just very curious about, like, he had a chance to really push towards web. Why didn't he? Or now again with concordance continuing to be upgraded and purchased by Cloud9. Excited to see what that is. Anyone who knows me knows I joke that if concordance was a person, I'd marry it tomorrow. It's like, he may be older, but he's solid. He's solid. Like he does what you say. I can write a little CPL and it does what I say. But again, it's just fun. Huh?
He gets the job done.
Exactly. Yeah. Takes out the trash. I'm very happy. Yeah. But again, there's just tools. There's tools for every situation, and concordance is still a great tool. And again, to pay homage to one of the early founders of something that has really solidified e-discovery for us. And it wasn't meant for e-discovery back then when you think about it, right? It was paper, and it was paper discovery. We always thought that we would emerge to just saying discovery again, but we obviously haven't, since e-discovery is a very specific niche within discovery. But anyway, yeah, Jeff Liftsman.
All right.
Oh, good choice.
Well, Joy, we really appreciate your taking the time to share with us today. It's been great talking to you. You're one of those people I never get to spend enough time with at a conference when I see you. But now that we don't have conferences, we can spend some time actually sitting down and talking more.
Yeah, we can do this all day long, Tom. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can certainly talk all day long. So it's that's what we should do with Marathon Zoom one day, and just have people shuffling in and out.
We could do that as a fundraiser. People could just jump in and out. We could do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks again for the time. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Be safe out there in Southern Cal, and Rocky, same to you, and everybody out there also, please be safe. We will see you next time on the eDiscovery channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, Tom. Bye.